Hello, my name's Martin Dorey. I'm a lifelong campervanner. I'm a member of the Caravan and Motorhome Club, and I'm also a judge on the Design Awards each year at the NEC. This video is about all things to do with setting up when you arrive on a site. You probably will have booked a pitch online or using the Caravan and Motorhome Club app. You'll turn up, you'll have a pitch booked, you'll know you're going to stay there. You choose your pitch and then you head back to the office to let the wardens know which pitch you've chosen. Dogs, as you know, are very welcome on Caravan and Motorhome Club sites, of course, but they must be under control at all times. And when you're choosing a pitch, it might be wise to choose a pitch that is away from other dogs, or if you've got a dog that tends to bark a little bit, get overexcited, then pitch away from other people if you can. Before you go and set up on your pitch, you might need to service your motorhome, and that involves emptying your black waste, emptying your grey waste, and filling it with fresh water. When it comes to grey water, most sites will have a drive over drain. You drive onto the drain, undo your tap, and let the grey water flow out. Please, when you've emptied your grey tank, close your tap before you drive away. It's not good to drive around a campsite or even on the roads with, even if it's just a tiny little bit of grey water sloshing out onto the road, because it contains food waste and it will probably contain chemicals from your washing up. Of course, it goes without saying that grey waste should never be emptied into the environment, and you should always empty it on site. If your van doesn't have a grey waste tank, it's really important to put a bucket or a washing up bowl or a container of some description so that that grey water doesn't get out into the environment. When it comes to filling up with fresh water, it's absolutely essential to carry a hose with you that will fit your fittings on your van. If you are going to be driving, it's not a good idea to drive around with a full tank because there's such a lot of extra weight in the van. It may affect your payload, which may affect the legality of you actually driving if you're overweight. When it comes to black waste, again, same as grey waste, never ever empty it into the environment, and don't even empty it into public toilets. The extra fluids that you use are not good for normal sewage systems, so they have to go into an approved waste disposal point. When it comes to actually physically emptying, unscrew the top, the cap, and put it face down somewhere where it won't be in danger of falling into the waste tank, because the last thing you want to be doing is fishing out your cap from the waste. When it comes to emptying the cassette, please remember to put your thumb onto the little button at the back of the cassette so it won't form a vacuum inside, and then you won't get horrible splashback, and nobody wants that. Once you've emptied out, you can then rinse your cassette using the short hose. Don't use the freshwater tap because we don't want any cross-contamination between freshwater and waste. If the waste system has a flushing system, then flush it. If not, use the short hose just to clean around the pan to make sure it's nice and clean for the next person. And then, of course, really important, when the cassette goes back in the van, don't forget to wash your hands. Some people like to empty their cassettes wearing gloves, and that's fine. Obviously it keeps any contaminants off your hands, but do remember to make sure those gloves are put somewhere safely when you finish with them. And also still remember to wash your hands. It's important that you park the right way on your pitch, and this is partly to keep space between units the same for safety, fire regulations, but also just so that you don't impose on your neighbours. I know that I can park front ways or back ways into a space as long as I'm between the pegs. What I prefer to do is just give people a little bit of space and privacy, so that if my sliding door is on this side, I want to make sure that the other people on the next pitch, for example over there, their sliding door is on the other side as well. You might find at some point when you've parked up that you're not quite as level as you might like, and this is the time we get at our leveling wedges. I use one of these, which is a little mini spirit level. If you don't have a mini spirit level, you can just use a glass of water. It's a little bit more of a faff if you're on your own, but it is possible. Once you've leveled up, the next thing you might want to be doing is to plug into the electricity. First of all, uncoil your cable. If it's left coiled up when it's plugged into the van, it creates potentially an electromagnet which can cause a fire hazard. Plug into the van first and then into the electrical unit, and then also check on the box the trip switches. They may well be down, so you just have to flip them up to make sure you've got power. Whilst it is important to uncoil your entire cable, it's also important to remember that you've got to avoid trip hazards. So it's quite a good idea just to run it backwards and forwards at the back of the van. Now we've talked about pitching up, let's talk about a few things you can do to make your life on site easier. If you're plugged in to the mains when you're camping, then you don't really have to worry about your leisure battery because it will be being topped up. But if you have a three-way fridge, for example, that runs on gas, battery, and mains electric, you need to make sure that it is switched to mains electric when you're parked up on site. If you don't switch it over to mains electric and it runs off the battery, it will run your battery down really, really quickly. There are two types of fridges. You've got an absorption and a condenser fridge. Both of them will condensate because of the difference in temperatures, and that can sometimes run into a drip tray. It's a really great idea before you set off anywhere just to check your drip trays and just to empty them quickly into the sink. When you're plugged in to a site, you can use the site electricity to run your heater. It won't be as powerful and it won't give you as much heat, but it will produce a nicer kind of heat. And actually, if you're overnighting, it's quieter. So actually you can tend to get a better night's sleep if you run your heating from the electricity rather than from your gas or diesel. Nobody wants to wake up in the morning with their van full of condensation because it can get into the units and can be a rather unpleasant atmosphere. So it's a good idea just to roll the windows down a little bit or to have one of your skylights open. And most skylights these days will have a little grill that you can pull across, which will stop insects and midges from flying in. And that should stop condensation because there'll be airflow going through the van. It's a good idea to try and conserve water a little bit, so wash up in shallow water or even use the washing up facilities on site. Conserving electricity is also really important. If you're sitting out of an evening, it's great, have your awning light on, you can see what you're doing, but when it comes to turning in, please make sure that your awning light is turned off. It can be distracting to wildlife, and also it's causing light pollution. Now the club has worked really hard to provide low-level lights at a lot of club sites, and actually if you leave your awning light on, all that goes out of the window, and it means that other people might not be able to enjoy the stars above as much as they might. When it comes to rubbish, please remember to separate your recycling from your non-recyclable waste. The waste bins will be at the entrance to the site. Remember to gather up all your waste and all your recycling and do it whenever you leave or come back to the site. So when you go out for the day, it's really important to remember, obviously, to unplug your cable before you drive away. You can leave your cable on your pitch and also perhaps leave your wedges, but also a chair and table so that people who are looking around for a pitch for themselves know that that pitch is already occupied. One final tip is relax, enjoy yourself. Please try and be considerate to others, and above all else, have a great time.